Museveni has strong lead in partial results released from Thursday's presidential election. At least 19 people killed in flooding in South Africa's northern provinces of Limpopo and Mpumalanga. Plus, South African protesters target U.S. Consulate over Venezuela detentions and imperialism claims. I'm Joke Rogers here in Lagos. Uganda's Electoral Commission says President Yoweri Museveni has taken a strong lead in partial results from Thursday's presidential election. Figures announced on Friday morning put Mr. Museveni in front with 76% of the votes based on returns from 45% of the country's polling stations. He is followed by opposition leader Bobi Wine with 20%. Authorities say over 23,000 valid votes have been tallied to date, with 796 ballots recorded as invalid, as the 81-year-old leader seeks to extend his nearly 4 decades in power. Meanwhile, Mr. Museveni says Uganda will investigate delays and malfunctions of biometric voter verification machines that were used in the general election.
Did not send the particulars of the operators to the machines. So I checked, they are saying that some of them, even by this morning, had not sent their biodata. By this morning, some were sending by 9. Was this deliberate? We are going to check that. So when I started checking by 8, 9, people started ringing me. The machines are working in a few places, in other places they are not working. So the Electoral Commission proposed, and I had to support it, because people have gathered from morning, from 7, that will vote manually, because it was not correct for people to just go home. But the machine works. So there must be, we're going to find out why there was a delay by people to send the biodata to the machines. I know people who cheat, opposition. Last time they got 2.7 million votes by cheating. But this time we are also very, very alert. Although the machines have not worked well, we have got other measures which we are following up. So this is, since you are rumor mongers, this is not a rumor, these are true stories which I have told you.
Meanwhile, there are reports that security forces have surrounded Bobi Wine's home in the capital, Kampala, effectively placing him and his wife under house arrest. The National Unity Platform Party alleges that security officers jumped over the perimeter fence, putting up tents within his compound. However, police officials say that as a presidential contestant, Bobi Wine is a person of interest, and that the heavy security deployment around his home was for his own security. After casting his vote, he said he believed that the opposition was ahead in the polls, warning the authorities against altering the outcome.
We've been protesting for the last 3 months and beyond. We've been holding the national flag because it is within our constitution to protest. And yes, we've been telling the people of Uganda that this election is not about me as a candidate. It is about their right and defending their vote. So should the Electoral Commission subvert their voice, they have every right, as per Article 29 of our Constitution, to protest unarmed and non-violently. We also note that you seem to have a mindset that every protest in Uganda must be responded to with violence. What a sad situation. We have a constitution that provides for protests, non-violent protests, and that is what we call upon the people of Uganda to do. Now, if Mr. Museveni murders the people of Uganda, the world is watching, and he knows that nobody commits crimes and gets away with it, regardless of the passage of time.
Away from Uganda, flooding across South Africa's northern provinces of Limpopo and Mpumalanga has turned deadly, forcing the closure of the famed Kruger National Park and triggering helicopter evacuations of guests and staff. Authorities say at least 19 people have died in recent weeks after torrential rains caused rivers to burst their banks and communities to be cut off. Among the victims, a 5-year-old boy in Limpopo, as President Cyril Ramaphosa tours the region to assess the damage and offer condolences. The Weather Service has issued a high level 10 warning, the highest level, forecasting more heavy rain and urging residents to stay indoors and away from flooded roads. The disaster comes as scientists warn that climate change is intensifying storms across southern Africa. Well, mounting tensions over the U.S. military operation in Venezuela have ignited a major protest in Johannesburg. South Africa's civil society, labor unions, student organizations and solidarity movements have taken to the streets. Demonstrators gather outside the U.S. Consulate in Sandton under the banner "Wipe Out U.S. Imperialism," calling for an end to what they describe as illegal U.S. aggression and the immediate release of Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro and his wife. Our South Africa correspondent, Innocent Simusa, has more.
Organizers are telling me that more than 170 grassroots organizations have united in what they call an anti-imperialist front, linking events in Venezuela with broader struggles against war and global inequality.
We are here to protest or show solidarity with the people of Venezuela and marginalized communities around the world. We want to show our disgust at the American establishment, the epitome of Western imperialism, who think it's okay just to go into a vulnerable country and kidnap a democratically elected president. That is unconscionable. It should not be able to happen. We are part of a world order. There's rules that apply to everyone. No one is above the law, not even the mighty United States of America.
They argue that the recent U.S. operation, which involved military forces entering Venezuela and resulted in Maduro and Flores being taken to the United States, represent a sharp escalation of imperial power and a threat to international peace and stability.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think he's continuing a grand old tradition, by the way, of U.S. As well as other countries' imperialism, like the desire to control what happens in the rest of the world for their own ends. I do think that what's happening with Trump is there's a speeding up. And that's, I suppose, what I'm trying to represent here is that we're on a steeper and steeper slope in terms of the lengths that a person like Trump feels he has to go to regain control in a world that's quite unstable at the moment.
And this is the main message they want the U.S. government and the international community to take from this protest.
So this protest, the reason why I'm here today is to show my solidarity with Venezuela as part of a broader movement against United States imperialism. What I would like the international community to take from this is the need in this moment in time for people across the world to come together, organize, and show that we are not willing to be complicit in another meaningless war starting across the world.
Well, one for me, and I'm not going to even attempt to be politically correct or however people want to hear what I have to say. What I have to say is the South African government needs to stand up, come up with sustainable economic strategies and policies. And we do not have to be dependent on the West or the rest of the world.
Well, protesters are telling me that the detention of Venezuela's leader is a threat to global peace and sovereignty. Now, as protesters continue here, the questions around whether or not the relationship between South Africa and the United States can be mended or it's strained forever. Those questions hang in the balance. From Johannesburg, South Africa, Innocent Samosa, Channels Television News.
Wikipedia is marking 25 years as one of the world's most widely used open knowledge platforms, and Nigeria is emerging as a key contributor to how that knowledge is created and shared. Through the work of Wikimedia User Group Nigeria, local editors are documenting Nigeria's languages, culture, public life, and everyday realities, helping to close long-standing information gaps and improve global representation. This growing contributor community reflects a broader shift in open knowledge. When people closest to the information tell their own stories, content becomes more accurate, inclusive, and relevant. Joining us now is Olani Olushola, President of Wikimedia User Group Nigeria, to discuss Nigeria's impact on Wikipedia and what comes next. Growth in significance as Wikipedia marks 25 years. How has the Nigerian contributor community grown, and what role does it now play within the global platform?
Thank you very much for having me on your program. And I'm super excited to join millions of people from across the globe to celebrate the 25th anniversary of Wikipedia. So, Nigerian Wikimedia community, this anniversary is beyond this anniversary, but it's a way to reflect on where we are coming from, because as a people, when the platform started in 25 years ago, we were being written about. But today, we have taken custody and authorship of the content that belongs to us. We are no longer the consumers of information, but rather we own and we create our own content. So it's been a very exciting time. So talking about how we have grown as a community, Wikipedia in Nigeria, we started 15 years ago as a community. Before then, we've been having people creating content on Wikipedia. But then, people that were contributing then were contributing in silos based on their individual needs. But when we came on board, we strategically repositioned how we want Nigerians and Nigerian-related content to be seen on internet. And today, we have grown from just not an ordinary people of just 3 people that started up to over 1,000 people working together to write about ourselves, letting the entire world to see us the way we want them to see us. And more so, we have grown in terms of content. When we started 15 years ago, you can hardly read about our indigenous content. Most of the contents that you could see about Nigeria then were from the perspective of the Europeans. And many of them are also written by bots. So it is something that you will want to really talk about. But then, when we started, we have been able to work thematically by looking at those key areas of needs. For example, in 2015, UNESCO started a narrative that said that in 2025, Igbo language would go into extinction. And we were disturbed because one of the key areas of our focus here as a Wikimedian is how we can project the way people read, what they read about us. So we started a project called Nigeria Language Oral Indigenous Language Documentation. So what did we do? We visited people in remote places, indigenous people. We interview them and we make them to tell their story using their indigenous language, to talk about their stories, talk about their traditions, their festivals, and even the process of doing basic domestic things. These things are documented in audiovisual, and the entire world can read about them. Today, over 300 of those videos are available. Then again, imagine Nigeria happened to be one of the most diverse countries in terms of language, and you can only read English about us when we started in 2015. We have over 525 languages, which is 25% of the entire language spoken in Africa. So right now, you can read and write about Nigeria in Yoruba, in Hausa, in Igbo, and some other smaller indigenous languages. It has shown that Nigerian content are now being, not just by Nigerians, but even non-Nigerians are reading quite a lot about us. And again, when you look at structure, when we started 15 years ago, we were just 3 group of people that are passionate on putting Nigerian map on the digital scale of the world. But today, we now have an organization that is supporting an open knowledge with experts being recruited to take some of those places. Now, the entire country are taking us serious because we can now bring in more partnership, more funding, and more thematic strategically projects. So it's been a very huge growth in Nigeria, and we are so excited to celebrate 25th years of 25th anniversary of Wikipedia as a Nigerian Wikimedia community.
Yes, and we have noticed that with more young Nigerians coming online, how do you think this is shaping digital literacy, storytelling, and participation in open knowledge?
Well, that's a very, very strategic question. We have actually changed quite a whole lot of the way open knowledge is shaping education and cultural preservation. I told you earlier, I told you about the project called the Nigerian Language Oral History Documentation. We have partnered with quite a number of universities in sharing this content with them to support their research and critical thinking system. And again, in 2017, when Wikipedia conducted a survey in Nigeria about Wikipedia awareness in Nigeria, then only 23% of Nigerians are aware of Wikipedia then. That was in 2017. But when we drill down this survey, we noticed that out of these 23% of Nigerians that were aware of Wikipedia in 2017, 76% of them are students. So I and my team will delve into a critical work of engaging Nigerian university on how we can bring students, take them away from social media, just bringing lazy things on social media, to doing critical work on rebranding the visibility of Nigeria online. And not just Nigeria online, but more so about our diversity. Today, in many universities in Nigeria, we have created fan clubs where we have robust relationship with some monumental tertiary institution in Nigeria where students are being taught on the way Wikipedia runs. And now they can use Wikipedia in the area of research work, and now they can use Wikipedia in the area of validating content and the likes. So we have really changed. And before I close on that, now we have used Wikipedia to be a leveler in terms of access to open knowledge in Nigeria. Today, a Nigerian student, whether you have money or you don't have money, you have access to equally quality information that people in Europe and other climes can have access to just because of open knowledge. So it's been a very huge success in terms of work that we have done.
Yes, thank you. A very robust conversation there. I must thank you for your time again. That's Olaniyan Olushola, President of the Wikimedia User Group Nigeria. Thanks again for your time on the program.
Thank you for having me.
More than 1,000 days into the war in Sudan, aid agencies warn the country remains trapped in the world's largest hunger and displacement crisis. Millions have been forced from their homes. Fighting continues across multiple regions, and children are being killed and uprooted daily as humanitarian needs rise and funding falls far short.
In Al Obeid, the capital of Sudan's North Kordofan state, rows of worn tents now fill school grounds and open spaces. Families displaced by war have turned these makeshift camps into home. Women wash clothes beside tents. Meals are cooked over open fires. Children weave between shelters, growing up amid uncertainty. Many fled their homes months ago, forced to move repeatedly as fighting spread. There is severe suffering. We were displaced in March. After leaving our homes, we stayed in schools, then shelters, and later we were given tents. So far, we have received nothing except household items, but we remain patient. Some residents say conditions have improved slightly with help from aid groups, but the emotional toll remains heavy.
Thank God we have settled here in the camp. May God reward the organizations that supported us and provided tents. But when we remember our homeland, we feel pain. It is very difficult.
The United Nations says displacement has surged in recent weeks. More than 15,000 people have fled to White Nile State since late October alone.
Fighting continues across multiple fronts. In Kordofan, sieges have cut off the towns of Kadugli and Dilling, restricting food, healthcare, and access to farms and markets. In Darfur, fighting on the ground and drone attacks from the sky continue, and we have seen long-range strikes on civilian infrastructure far beyond the front lines.
More than 5 million children have been forced from their homes. That is the equivalent of 5,000 children displaced every single day since this conflict began. Many have been displaced not once, but repeatedly, with violence following them wherever they flee. Children continue to be killed and injured. Just this week, 8 children were reportedly killed in an attack in Al Obeid, North Kordofan.
Fighting between the Sudanese army and the Rapid Support Forces erupted in April 2023, plunging the country into a devastating war. According to UN figures, more than 20,000 people have been killed, over 33,000 injured, and around 12 million displaced. More than 25 million Sudanese are facing severe food insecurity.
Almost 3 years of continuous violence have turned Sudan into the worst humanitarian crisis globally. An estimated 33.7 million people will need humanitarian aid this year, and 13.6 million people are displaced, making Sudan the largest displacement crisis in the world. Poor living conditions, overcrowding, lack of access to safer water, sanitation and hygiene, and a breakdown of routine immunization are fueling disease outbreaks. WHO is supporting the response to outbreaks of cholera, dengue, malaria, and measles.
The UN also reports escalating violence in Darfur and Kordofan, including drone strikes that have killed civilians, hit markets and medical clinics, and displaced hundreds more. In South Kordofan, civilians remain trapped under siege with access to food, medicine, and fuel increasingly restricted. The United Nations is again calling for the protection of civilians and unhindered humanitarian access, warning that without sustained aid and an end to the fighting, the suffering of Sudan's displaced families will only worsen.
The International Monetary Fund says discussions with Senegal on a new financial support program are continuing following a mission to Dakar late last year. IMF officials confirmed that a new mission chief for Senegal, Mercedes Vera Martin, will travel to the capital next week for introductory talks with the country's new authorities and to review recent macroeconomic developments. The fund says the visit is largely procedural, aimed at establishing working relations and assessing the economic landscape, and no formal communication is expected afterward. The talks come as Senegal navigates a delicate economic transition and seeks to stabilize growth and mounting fiscal pressures. And as we end the program, did you know that Togo was known as the slave coast? Between the 11th and 16th centuries, various tribes such as those from Ghana and Nigeria entered the region, with most settling in the coastal areas. For the next 200 years, the coast became a major center for European slave trade and earned Togo and the nearby areas the reputation as the slave coast. That's Network Africa. Thank you for watching. I'm Joke Rogers.